how many years ago I attended your conferences in Brooklyn.
And that's why I was trying to figure. I was like, the face looks familiar. I must say, when people say Brooklyn, I always think of it as another country, and I'm always like, I don't know if I'll see you again, but here we are. Well, it's good to have you back. See some other familiar faces. Luckily, a lot more unfamiliar, which means I can make more people familiar. I see we also potentially have some allies in the house. I did see some men RSVP, or at least tell me they were coming. So.
We are already 20 and we're expecting 100 people tonight. So as the room's filling in, just feel free to grab a glass of water and we'll be starting slowly in a couple of minutes.
Food games.
Like this one definitely needs to be cut shorter. This one right here, I want this one cut shorter.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. The clock just struck midnight here in Belgium and 6 p.m. In the States. So I'd like to warmly welcome everybody tonight on this very special day, which happens to be as well the International Women's Day. And we have a very special guest tonight, Jodi Brockington of NIARA Consulting, who will share with us the tips and tricks of networking and how to do it successfully to leverage your career. We are very, very happy to see that we have almost 30 people now in the room, and we expect 70 more. So it's going to be the full house. And I bet everybody was driven by the irresistible charisma of Jodi and by her generosity to share her skills and her knowledge. So thank you very much for being here. And thank you to Jodi. But before we proceed, I would like to ask Stephanie Skouras, who is the president of Women Accelerators, to tell you a couple of words about our organization. And I'm going to share my screen here, just a little second. All right, I hope you'll be able to see it soon. All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Marta. Welcome, everyone. Happy International Women's Day. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your time with us tonight and taking the moment to celebrate with each other. So Women Accelerators, we're a nonprofit based in Massachusetts, but with the pandemic, we adapted to a more virtual presence and we're able to connect with people from down south to all the way across the world to Belgium and even down to Australia. We have some volunteers from there as well. So that's the beauty of the internet, is getting to connect with amazing women and all this talent. So as I said, Women Accelerators, we're a nonprofit. Something we are passionate about is providing resources for women to reach their goals from their personal lives to their careers, and also making it kind of like a safe place so you can share what you're going through at work or in your personal life, and we try to connect you with someone who can help you overcome what you're going through or general networking for a job position. Something we offer year round is a mentoring program as well as a coaching program, and we do monthly webinars. So really happy to have you all here.
Thank you very much, Steph. We hope that many of you will become the followers of Women Accelerators and will join us for next webinars and meetings. So now, before we begin, I would like to invite you to participate in a small brainstorming session. So I'm going to share a link in the chat. And I will ask you to write down 5 words that you think about when you think about networking. So here comes the link. And let's see what we think about when we say networking. All right, we've got the first word, scary. Okay. Oh, that's a big scary. All right. LinkedIn, yeah. Unsure. Good evening to those who are joining right now. We are brainstorming and the link is in the chat, so you can open it and tell us what you think about when we say networking, so that we can set the tone for our today's conversation. Let's give it another minute or two because we have fantastic ideas here. A lot of valid feelings and words that can be associated with networking. We have the factor of time, of stress as well, but also the bright side, opportunities, mentorship, helping, learning. So as we all can see, networking can stir really ambivalent feelings in us. Career development, new beginnings, storytelling. New people. There is a lot of new in it, so it's great to see that you associate it with something that opens new chapters.
I like that connection is in the middle.
Yes. We have 2 more people who joined recently. The link to the activities in that chat, so you can join us to brainstorm.
And also right there on the screen, you can type it in to your phone.
Let's wait perhaps for another minute to see if we have new words appearing, or if we are more or less done with our brainstorming session. Okay, I think we have some interesting material here, so we can use it already to go to the next level. And I would like to give a very warm and official welcome to Jodi Brockington, who is here with us from New York, and she's known to many of you as the top lifestyle coach, business consultant, diversity and inclusion specialist, among other, and of course, the one who founded the Friends of Jodi. So we're very happy to have a lot of Friends of Jodi with us tonight. And well, Jodi, it's great to have you tonight. And I'd like to open with a short story of
Sure.
how you and I met and connected. To make it very short, last October I participated in a conference to relaunch my career after a long break, and there were a lot of virtual booths in which you could plan a meeting with recruiters. And guess what? I was waiting for about 3 or 4 hours, and it was virtually impossible to get into any of those booths. So what I did is note down the names of the recruiters, employers who were interviewing on that day. And Jodi happened to be one of them. And she was the only person who actually got back to me after I reached out. So I wanted to ask a question relating to this story about how to connect with people that we do not actually know at all, the so-called cold contacts. And I'd like to ask for your feedback, Jodi. Should I have done something differently, or how did
No,
it
I was
go?
going to say that you were extremely strategic. Often people will get turned off. You're at an event and you're waiting and then you give up. But also on the other side, other recruiters like me lost out on the opportunity of speaking to you if they never got back to you. But I always, I try my best to always get back to someone, and even if not me, someone on my team, someone I'm working with, because if you spend the time and find it valuable enough to reach out to me, the least someone can do is reach back. But what you did is you took it a step further. You said you did a little research. You found out what company I was with. You knew I was one of the recruiters. There was a picture of me. Sometimes people don't have a picture up, right? They just have a name. My name is unisex, even though I am definitely a girl or a woman, and the she, hers, me. But you really want to make sure you connect with people. And often, since the first word that came up tonight was scary about networking, at this point, you have a 50-50 chance if the person's going to get back to you, right? And now you already have my name, you can look me up. I don't ever want to disappoint anyone. That doesn't mean I'm going to hire you either, but at least I can get back to you. So that's definitely the best way on a cold, I'll call it a cold contact, that you want to make warm, is to find out a little bit more about them. So also when I got back to you, you also told me about the roles that you were interested in, what was there. I wasn't just calling you for no reason or coming back to you without you having something to report to me. So when you are networking, you always want to make sure that you have some information about the person, where they work, if it's about a career opportunity. Maybe you want to interview them, so you want to know a little bit more about them and why they're of interest to your group or what they're going to bring to the table. And that first contact is not about you whatsoever. It's all about them until they ask about you. And that's the same thing when it's hierarchical, right? So if I was trying to contact someone in the C-suite about something, or someone who I don't know, I want to know as much about them, what they're doing, what they've been up to, maybe what we have in common before contacting them. So you have something to discuss. If there's any air or dead time that you want to say, oh, I saw you were in France last week, or I saw you were in Belgium. How did you get there, right? You want to bring up something about them that's important to them, and that's a connection back to you. Like, oh, my mother lives in France. So you're not too far. You know, maybe you can bring her some fries, or maybe she can bring you back some pate on her way back to Amsterdam, right? So I can at least, now you know, oh, Jodi's mother lives in Europe, right? So now you all know that. And she is there now, and she is in Paris now. And she was at the Mascot earlier. So if you ever go to Paris, let me know. But then now you see how you're pulling me in. And when we first met, you didn't know that we were ever going, or maybe you had a plan that this was going to happen, but I didn't know.
That's
Maybe there
also
was a
beautiful
master plan.
surprise, a beautiful surprise from our meeting, from our first meeting.
See?
So.
So that's the, I guess that's the beauty of networking, is one, you don't know where it's going to lead, right? Positive or negative, because you could say something wrong or offend me, or find out that we have a lot not in common than in common. But the whole purpose is, maybe Marta and I, we might not have been a great connection, but things that we found out about each other, we could connect each other to other people that could be powerful. So often, you know, I would not even say often, all the time with networking, always think about, how can this person, what can you do for them? And then what can they do for others that you know besides yourself? Like, you know, it's the one time where I think that the beginning of a relationship and networking needs to be as selfless as possible, even if you have a reason to connect them. So even if Marta wanted a job, that she wanted to connect with me first, so that I would have some reason, you know, to be pleasant. She was really nice. You know, I could tell. I didn't see her in the beginning, because I think we spoke on the phone first. And then, because now you can speak on the phone and then Zoom versus Zoom first, right? There's all these layers, and there's no reason that someone can't connect with you, even someone you're trying to, you know, connect with personally, even as a date or something like that, where there's no excuse for people not to get back to you. So whoever didn't get back to you, I'm happy I did. So, but those are the good, you know, networking cold. That's a very, really, the best way is a little research, knowing what you think you might want from that person, that company, what they do, and then being able to know a little bit more about them than they know about you. And then the things that you've learned about them in the research, to connect them back to you before that call, before the Zoom, before the email. So did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Jodi. Well, we want to keep this conversation as interactive as possible. So we will welcome at this point any of questions that you might have for Jodi. We had a lot of ideas in the brainstorming cloud, so please feel free, open your mics, and let's all talk and exchange ideas. Do we have someone who would like to go first? Julianne, please.
Hi, because I know Jodi a long time, I can be courageous. So she's always an inspiration. So I'm going to share, you don't know me, but I'm going to go right to what I did wrong a few years ago, like 20 years ago. And I've always carried it with me. And I thought I was really good at networking, and I was up to that point, but I called a contact who is an accomplished writer. She was one of the first in the women's writing network for business. It's globetrotter, made oodles of money at it and all this stuff. And I called her one day to pick her brain, except I started off with a general question. And she admonished me to say, you know what, you could have gotten that from anybody. You need to value my time and find out what I can really deliver that nobody else can in this conversation. Now, that was back in mid-90s, but it stayed with me because it was true. And the good news is I've learned from that. I played it for, I was a little too comfortable, and maybe it was a little lazy in that 2 seconds, you know, kind of just assumed it. But I played it forward and taught other people that, and always remind myself, what is the most important thing I can ask that I won't need to get off the internet, you know, or I could research it someplace else. What's the thing that's needed? So it's kind of those tough lessons sometimes, but they really do stay with you. So thanks, Jodi.
Yeah, and
Great to see you.
And I was going to say the more that you can know about the other person, the company. I mean, think about, we've all been in job interviews, we've all, you know, and there's stuff that I'm like, if you don't know how many people even work at the company or the name of the CEO or some common knowledge, people are going to like, that's easy. Like you should be able to pull that down, find that and discuss it. And then, you know, and if I asked you something about me looking things up, like, you should know that, yeah, I do networking. Like there's things, right? I'm known for my curly hair. Only a few people prior to the 90s saw me regularly with my hair straight in Los Angeles. And so, you know, there's just things people know. If you watch my feed, I go to the gym every day, just about, right? So fitness is important to me. Health is important, right? So those little things that make you more connected to knowing a person, a company, a place, a country you're moving to. You know, I'm gonna hope that Marta brings back some chocolate on her way.
Yeah.
You know, so there's just things, but but it's good that someone, you know, Julian, early on said something to you, right? Because nowadays, because everyone's home and everyone's talking about, oh, work from home, it's so hard to connect with people. How am I going to ever network? How am I going to get promoted? You can still get those 15 minutes with someone who possibly in the past you couldn't because they were traveling and their schedule was that much more crowded. At least now you know they're quote unquote stuck at home with the rest of us. And so to get 15 minutes, but if all you're going to do is get 15 minutes with your manager or up a level or with someone you've never met before, we all have that superpower person, you know, our Oprah in our lives. If you were in television, right, there is someone in each of our industries that you would love to connect with, but you should know as much about them as possible before just jumping in. And if you get that meeting or you get that opportunity, and I'll even bring up a today opportunity, Jan Baker, who's on the call today or in Zoom with us, we are working on a new platform for me, a biracial platform. And I just told you that I like fitness. I am a Fit Pro for Athleta. And I don't know if you guys have seen across every Instagram that Alicia Keys has a whole line with Athleta gear or the clothing line. And here I am walking from Starbucks to my physical therapy, from the gym to Starbucks to my physical therapy appointment. And I see this car parked outside of the large flagship store on Fifth Avenue. And I see security and I see a sign outside that says Alicia Keys. And I was like, she has to still be there if they're secure. Like, so you got to pay attention to like the atmosphere and what's going on around you. And I have met her before. I do know her through a personal friend. And I was like, I just want to say thank you to her for doing this. It's nice to see someone who looks like me, literally in terms of culture, that is also biracial, that also looks like me shape-wise, like we're not straight, we got some hips, we got some booty, you know, and she's in a clothing store of a company that I believe in, who supports me in the fitness that I do and have supported some of my events. And I went in and it was like perfect timing. She had just finished all the book signing, all the work. And I was like, you know, I told her who sent me, and she was like, I didn't even know I was coming here today. And I said, I didn't know either. But I had a nice opportunity to tell her the same thing I just told you. I said, it's so good to see someone who looks like me, literally, who has experience like me. And I gave her even more credit for the body care stuff that she's doing, the positive image she's been giving young girls and women, the makeup free. I have a little on tonight, but usually nothing because I go from the gym to a coffee shop, to a client, to a call. And so she was just like, thank you so much. And she goes, if you're going to do this platform, then I'd love to be a part of it. And I said, I'd reach out through our mutual friends and that kind of stuff. But those opportunities, when they come, I had to have everything down pat of what I was going to say. I did not go in there planned. I actually thought it was like I had missed the whole thing. And so to Julian's point, you have to be prepared and kind of know enough about someone and the connection points, because she could have just been like, I'm done book signing and left, instead she was fully engaged. They were videotaping me talking to her. So maybe it'll end up in some commercial or something, I'm hoping. That's my big goal, right? You got to have that big picture. Like, it wasn't about me, but it could be if I show up in that film. And so, it was just a great New York moment. And so wherever you guys all live, around the world, around the globe. And when you travel, sometimes you just end up in these places and with these great people or someone that you should know, and take that opportunity, but really have something of value to say. Like, if I ever get a chance to talk to Maxwell, that's one of my goals. So if anyone works with him, I should go to every concert. I've gone to enough, and I sit very close, but not close enough to talk to him. But there's just things that we all want from our lives or to do. And if there's someone who can get you a little closer to that, or there is that person or a place that you need to be or try out or food you want to taste, you got to go. You have to take that opportunity. So that scary part of networking, or the scary part to connect, you have to sometimes just take that leap of faith. And even though Julian did take that leap of faith, she did get told what she did wrong, but it still sits with her, right? So she remembers and reminds other people not to fall into that trap.
Yes, that's how I teach. Learn from my mistakes, Claire, forward.
And I must say, and I'll give Julian a plug, she has a great writer. We met because we're both Baruch alums, and we were mentors, or we are mentors at Baruch. And I was a National Urban Fellow, and I luckily got my degree paid for. So I always try to give back and move forward, but I also started volunteering because I knew there were less alumni of color and women who were volunteering their time. And I wanted to make sure that those who wanted that kind of a mentor, or at least interested in what I did in my field, to meet me. And we've been connected ever since, and realized how many other connections we have. And Julian's actually connected to one of my high school friends, who I'm still connected to, who is a Brooklynite, Keisha, who I've never been to her house, even since high school, but I know everything. She's traveling the world, all of that stuff. So it's how you also stay in connection with your network is important too. Any other questions? Or someone who has another great story?
In the chat, we have Aliyah asking, how do you take the virtual networking into the real life dimension?
Okay. Well, it depends on what you're networking for. Is there something specific that you're trying to do with that, Aliyah? Because I could be more specific for you. But in general, it depends on the person. I've never, and I'll put my hand up here, I've never done any of the dating services online, but I'm gathering it works the same way, where you've met someone online, whether or not it's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Snap, whatever your platform of choice is, or you might have even met them at the grocery store live, or I don't know, at a work event. But then to turn it into something, right? So for Marta to eventually have me here today, it wasn't just one phone call and one email. It was like, hey, Jodi, and we met, and then she said what she was doing and what she worked for. So it takes a little bit of time, but the sooner you can get to an actual meeting, so a Zoom versus a phone call, and actually seeing each other, or now that at least here in New York, and I don't know where all of you are, but the mask stuff coming down, and you have all your boosters and your shots, and you're willing to meet someone live, the sooner you can get to something live with some value, the better. So that way you can meet, but it will take a couple of times. And in some cases, for example, if you're looking for work, that's an easy example where you eventually need to stay part of the community, stay in touch with that person, even though maybe you interviewed for 2 jobs and you didn't get them, stay with them for a while. There's a few people I can see in the Zoom as well who I've met in that route, because I've worked for a variety of different search firms and do a lot of diversity search. So sometimes you get the job and sometimes you don't, but that doesn't mean that you just stop talking to me, or once you get the job, I should get a thank you card. I should be checking in on you and seeing how it's going at the job, right? You should not just like drop off. Unless it's a bad relationship and it's toxic and you need to go your separate ways, or there was nothing that each of you could give to each other. But the sooner you can get to something that's real, the better. The longer you stay kind of, oh, I'll just send one little email, that scariness that everyone's talking about is really what you need to defer and just jump in, because they're just as nervous as you, even if you're the one who believes that you need them more than they need you. So did I answer your question?
We have a question from Kaisha relating to what you just said, Jodi. That is, how do you actually go about maintaining the networking relationships that you developed?
Sure. Well, let me explain. It's kind of like when you drop a stone in a pond, right? And there's those ripples, those circles, right? So, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your relationship with your family and your real close friends, they're that main rock, right? And even with them, you don't talk to Aunt so-and-so so much, or your cousin. And sometimes you don't want to talk to your parents, your sister, your brother, right? Even your immediate family. And the same thing with people in your network, that you don't need everyone all the time. Like, I'm so excited that Julian's here and that Jan's here, and I'm seeing Yanni, who was a client and a mentee, and now, you know, friend of like a whole bunch of FOJs I haven't seen in a while, who probably didn't even know what I've been up to in the last 2 years. We all have the COVID block, right? But you don't need everyone at the same time for the same things and the same amount of things. And sometimes some people need you more than you need them at times. So there's something you're involved in or that you want to be a part of. So you just have to kind of mind them wherever you have met them, right? So if you're both on a part of Women's Accelerator and you know, you haven't seen each other, you just come to the regular meetings, but in between something happens and you remember that this woman said, oh, she, you know, I don't know, breeds dogs, and you were interested in purchasing a dog, you might reach out to that person because you remember something that they said, right? Long before the next meeting, you jump in, right? And so at different times for me, I pay attention to what I call my superpowers. And those are people who are like mentors, they're on my board of directors, I need some feedback about my career or just some introductions to some new clients. I pay attention to where they are and what they're doing, that a lot of them don't live in New York. And so if I'm going to where they live, Atlanta, LA, outside of the US, that I'm trying to let them know in advance, one, I'm coming, two, are they even going to be around when I'm happen to be coming, because they're busy. If not, that's also the opportunity, like, hey, I'm going to France in June for the music festival. Are you going to be there? And they're like, no, but at least now I know you're not going to be there. So then I say, well, since you won't be there, there's something I wanted to meet with you then. Is there a possibility for us to meet before June then? Or before that time, not live, or maybe you're coming to New York. So it gives me an opportunity to find out what they're up to, what their travel plans are, and then still take care of my original business, which was I needed to meet with this person, right? So the overall goal still gets met, but I'm not going to meet with him in Paris. Like, that's already not during June. Either I have to go some other time, or I'm praying that he's coming to New York and I can save the money. So think about, you know, you have to just mind that differently. I pay attention to what my mentees are up to, because I want to give them a woo woo and a cheer when they get a job, or they got an internship, or they're doing things. People who have done great stuff for me, sat on panels, spent time with me, helped me choose clothes one afternoon, you know, whatever it is, I try to stay in their world, but it's not all the time. There's someone on who's with us this evening too, Jason Murray, definitely true FOJ. He's part of a huge financial business network. He wrote a book. When he wrote his book, I was like, woo, got to get a copy, push that out for him. He's attended some of my other events because some of it dealt with the financial industry that he's part of. So making sure that as you do things that are important to you, but you know that they're important to 5 other people in your network, that you just kind of pay attention and remember. A part is memory. At one point or another, when I had my full team built, I definitely had one person that paid attention to a lot more of my social media and kind of had a list, just like you have a list of, if these people call, I don't need to talk to them right away. Like, there's kind of a hierarchy. Like, if I have 5 minutes left in my day, I'm not talking to my mother. Like, that will just push me over the edge. But I will talk to my mentor, or I will talk to one of my mentees who could cheer me up, or I could get something from. And maybe I do want to talk to my mother that day because I want to cry my heart out, or say something was bad, or something didn't go right, or I want a recipe, right? So there's different reasons to talk to people, and you just need to, you'll find a rhythm as to how often, and you also will find a rhythm of how often they reach out to you. So it's not like you should be reaching out to them any more than they're reaching out to you in terms of timing. And that's one of the good things about LinkedIn. I do have probably more, and as I put into the chat, I would love to connect with all of you, but do not hit connect. Please invite me and say, hey, I met you on International Women's Day at the Women's Accelerator event on Zoom. So I have a reference, my assistant will have a reference. And so when I get back to you, it could be 6 months from now, but there's 80 James and Jasons and, Joanne's and Marta's in the world, and Claudia's, right? So it's the idea that I need to be brought back to that place of where we met, what we last talked about. Keisha, when she came in, she's like, hey, you probably didn't remember me, but I was in Brooklyn, and I'm glad to see you. Like, when people can reference back to something you just did, even if it was far back or something you just did for your company, for your business, you just got a promotion, your kids did something, like, you want to be part of someone's life beyond what they do every day. So if you can connect on smaller things, even within your company, when people talk about scary, to connect with people. But if you and your boss, both of your kids go to the same school and they're in the same grade and they're in the same class, you have all the reason beyond work to talk about other things that make that relationship stronger, or a reason why you can have some extra time that possibly someone else doesn't, right? Or you both go to the same gym, whatever those things are. So there's not a true, I wish there was a secret sauce of how to do this. And I sometimes feel like I sound like I stalk, or that I'm manipulative in my networking. But for me, it comes naturally. And so you just have to work those muscles a little bit more to figure out, how often do I need to be in touch with these people, right? And, so think about your ripples. I always say draw a circle. And this month, like in March, because it's Women's History Month, I find myself connecting with more women right now than men, right? Because there's this event, oh, I'm going to this with my, sister friends, and I'm going to do this with my, people are traveling. I'm speaking at this event with women, and I'm so excited that there are allies here today. Our men, we all need to be part of this conversation. But there's people that you just need to know, and they'll reach out to you if they need you. And, just know if someone's reaching out to you and they don't regularly, they probably do need something. So, that's that little spidey sense of, oh, I really haven't heard from blank for a minute, but now I have, right? So find ways for that to be part of your everyday kind of schedule, where I try every week to reach out to at least 3 people I haven't talked to. I have a long list, and I love when someone reaches out to me and they're on that list, and I'm like, you know what? I've been meaning to reach out to you. Might be for 6 months, but you reached out to me first, so you win the prize because I have all these great things to tell you, right? So thank you so much for reaching out to me. Or, I must have thought you up. I must have, someone else talked about you yesterday and suddenly you're in my Instagram feed, or because now you're conscious. So you need to stay conscious on those minds of people who are important to you, for them to be thinking about you. So for me, I want to be on the minds of my clients on a regular basis, that there's one more project for me, or there's something else I can do, or another place I can speak, or another kid that I can mentor. or someone else I can find a job for. Like, I want to be on that Solodex, Rolodex mindset for most people, right? So how do I do that? And there's, there's a list of those folks. And then it's like, what are they doing? And sometimes people that you meet in one space, they change. So you also realize that maybe they don't need to be on that same list. Maybe they're on a different list. So I have a fitness list, a workout list, who needs to go, like who travels internationally that I can ask when I'm going someplace where I should go versus them asking me. I do a Black chef series, so I'm always looking for more Black chefs and restaurants, and I'm a foodie. So there's all these it's not like I have a formal list. So when I say list, like in my mind, and as I go through Instagram, I do have some lists. I mean, I keep notebooks like crazy, but it's the idea that you just have to start like, oh, I'm about to bring back the Black Chef series. It went down during COVID. So now I'm trying to bring people back into that circle. So I'm working on that, but I have to mine it slowly, right? It's not something that's going to happen right away. So I hope that answers your question.
We have another question in the chat from Walid. How do you stay ahead of your network, and do you use any software to keep track of it?
Well, anyone who knows me, and now you guys know me, I hate CRM with a passion. I hate spreadsheets, but they are very important. I will not say, I will say that I do keep some, but not electronically so much. I do rely on different apps. So like in LinkedIn, I do keep a separate list of those people. Like you can keep lists within LinkedIn of people, or star them or favorite them or add them into different groups. I do that, and I would say quarterly, I pull down my entire list, and I think I have about 10,000 folks. So I clearly don't look at them all, but there's a way to see like the last time you kind of communicated with someone, when you connected with them, and those things are important. I try to also keep in tune with people for me, my birthday is the most important holiday. The rest of them, they're great. Christmas, Easter, blah, 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 whatever, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, 3 Kings, I'll take them all. But I also tend to try to reach out to people on their birthday. That's because it's important to me. I don't care really if it's important to you, but you'll probably hear from me on your birthday, if you're going to hear from me at all. One, because those are easy to keep up with. That's one thing I do keep in my calendar. I do keep in your profile or contact. I do use, well, back in the day, there was a thing called Card Munch, which I loved, which also connected your business card into your LinkedIn. And there's other softwares like that that I do like. But I've worked so many places and know a lot of people that part of it is just fluid now. But I would say for sure, if, lists and Excel spreadsheets and CRM and Slack and all of those great platforms work for you, the one that works for you, I would say use it to its fullest. One thing I always suggest is have your top 25 and maybe a top 50 list. I definitely have a women's list. I have a power list. I have, oh my God, I need a recommendation list. And I know everyone's busy. So like, if I'm applying for a new contract or a job, I know most of the people I need to do my recommendation are busy. So I need to ask at least 15 to 20 people to get the 2 or 3 that I need, because I might need it at the drop of a dime. And I can't just say, write a recommendation, right? You have to prepare them, send them the job description, tell them what position you're going for. And really, between those 3 people, each of them need to talk about me differently. Like maybe I worked with one, maybe another one, I ran their, all their social media, and this is a social media job. Like, depending on what it is, you also have to be able to help them, or practically, and I've done it myself, I'm like, you're going to have to almost write that recommendation for them. And then they'll add their little zhuzh here and there and their little statements, because they don't have time to do that either. Or you have a really good relationship with their executive assistant or personal assistant who's going to actually write that letter and get it to XYZ. So, it's a lot more work. It's, as I say this, it's like, oh my God, do I do all of this? But I do. And so if I can do it, I'm just a regular superpower human being like the rest of us. But I feel like there's just ways and things that you need. So, depending on what you need at a different time will matter. It could be as simple as, I need a new cleaning service because my apartment's a mess and I have people coming, and as much as I'd like to clean it myself, I just don't have the time, right? So asking 5 people, who do you use? Oh, they're only in Queens, but I'm in Manhattan. I can't, so, it's still a hit or miss. So take some time to figure out, like, if you are someone who loves CRM and spreadsheets and long lists, and you want to keep it in one place, whether written or online, that's your choice. Same thing with, like, contact lists. If I was to lose my phone, and as much as we back up, and we know every time they change phones, you lose something. Sometimes it's good to lose some people and see if they find you again. Same thing with dating. So it's the idea that's like, how much do you need to keep in touch with them, and who's really important, and what is it that you're working on? So those of you who are in school, who maybe you're trying to go to grad school, definitely have a list of professors and people who are either working at companies that you want to work at that might be alums from your school. So start looking at alumni list. Keep a nice relationship with some professors who are going to have to write you recommendations. Find, anyone you've done an internship with before you leave that internship, get them to write a pretty generic letter that, hey, Jodi worked for me in the summer of 2020, and she was great. Although it was all online, she was able to X, Y, Z. Once again, you might have to write it because sometimes these people don't know everything you've done. And make sure you leave with something and keep that, and then be able to reach back to them. They might leave that company, right? By the time you decide you're going somewhere or doing something. So that's what I mean. Like, eventually, you're going to have to follow. If Marta was your professor, she was at Pennsylvania State, now she's teaching at Harvard. First of all, she's upgraded, so that could help you open some more doors, right? So pay attention to where people are going, but I think we all have a way of keeping track of, and I don't think that there's one platform. If you guys, anyone who's here this evening, if there's a platform that you use, please put it in the chat for everyone. Between, like I said, Slack, Excel, BlueJ, so that way you find some new resources and someone you can follow up from this evening. So they're going to say they use blank resource, and you can follow up with them and ask them to help walk you through it. So
we have another question from Kate. Roughly how many people should we have in these circles? Is there a good rule of thumb?
I'm for the rule of thumb, the more the merrier. And I don't think that there's so much a limit or a minimum. It's just who's in your network that you can leverage into those spaces.
We have a very interesting question as well from Jan Baker. Jodi, if you network 2 people and one person messed it up, for example, flaked, how do you handle that? Your network is your net worth.
So in other words, I put you, Marta, and Julian to network with, we also have a few other Baruch alumni out there. I said, oh, you guys should meet up. And I don't know, Marta, you dropped the ball and you leave Julianne there. Part of me is I'm going to follow up with whoever dropped the ball and figure out what happened, because Julianne's going to be like, you said Marta was going to help me. And I've reached out to her 3 times, never heard from her. Even her assistant gave me the runaround. But maybe I find out that someone in Marta's family wasn't well. She had to travel. She left the country or came back or just was unavailable. I'm going to report back if it's good, bad, or ugly. If it's something that she said, maybe she's like, oh, I don't think there's anything I can really do for Julian, which is really why I didn't call her back. I will either be the advocate and figure out before I call Marta, first of all, I'm going to find out what Julianne needed from her. And if it's something that I do believe Marta could follow through on, I will usually request that, just make one quick call, let her know what you can do, tell her that you didn't think tell her what you told me. I don't want to be the go-between all the time, but if I can advocate because it was my original relationship that I connected people through, I want to be the advocate there. But there's a point where sometimes those of you who are in this tonight but have known me for a while, I do a lot of email or e-connections, like 2 great FOJs, great. 2 friends to Jodi, one's from here, one's, Marta, me, Julian, me, like, and I give a little synopsis, what I think y'all could do for each other. And I'm like, and I hope you guys have a good time, and I'm out. And just like if we were at a live event, most of my friends know you are not going to see me at an FOJ event. Like, you're going to see me, I'm going to say hello, but I have you there because I did want Marta to meet Julian at this party and other people. But you kind of, I just want to direct people. I don't want to sit there all night. I'm not there to talk to someone, even if you haven't seen me in months. Not that I'm not going to talk to you, but everyone knows that I'm like, oh, you need to meet so-and-so. And there's personal connections I'm trying to make and dating connections I'm trying to make for people. And I'm trying to do things, right? So I still do that virtually now, but in the real world, or when we were connecting more live and live events, the same thing would happen there. Or even you go to a 10-top dinner with your company and it's kind of like, oof, dragging on, or you get up or you go with someone else and you're like, oh, I don't know anyone here. My goal was always to go to 2 other tables, meet 2 other people and say, hey, I'm here with my friend. don't know anyone here. And I promised myself tonight I was going to meet 2 people. And you're sitting here by yourself. And I just want to introduce myself. I'm Jodi. This is what I do. I'm here with, and I point to the person or the company. And, what is it that you do? Just start a conversation, talk about the weather. Don't talk about anything. You don't have to talk about yourself. You're in a new place. Or what do you think about the lipstick, the dress? And I don't dress up often. Does this look okay? Like, you can ask people's opinions just to start a conversation. And often that's the scary part. So when you guys said scary, I think sometimes, I'm definitely extrovert. I think you picked that up tonight. There are plenty of introvert folks that I think are even better networkers than myself because they're so targeted. They're like, ooh, I only have time to talk to one person tonight, and it's going to be that star person. They're going to wait. They're here to talk to that speaker, the keynote, the this, and then, and my thing is, you don't have to go for the whole time. If the event is 2 hours, you only have to stay until you meet the person that you're supposed to, or whatever you've kind of told yourself, like, tonight before I leave, I'm going to get 3 business cards, or I'm going to connect with 2 people. You don't have to be there from 6 to 9. You can be there from 6 to 6:15 if you met the 3 people and that major person you wanted to meet. You are free to go. And I'm done, right? So that scariness or the anxious or the anxiety, and I always try to go with someone. There's a great book, Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, that I do recommend for networking. And it's a book that I felt like, damn, he's like my brother from another mother and sister and brother and father. But he kind of talks about stuff that we're doing now, but he was talking about this in the 90s, like pinging people, which we do throughout the day, whether or not it's text, whether or not it's through Teams, whether or not it's during a Zoom call that you're like, hey, did you see what Marta's wearing today? Those glasses, can you believe, whatever you're talking about, right? So it's not always the conversation as to what's going on, but reconnecting with people. So find some ways to make networking fun. For those of you who think of it as scary, like turn it into a game. Like I said, 2 people you have to meet tonight, or find someone else who has your birthday or it's in the same month. I do a lot of networking games, which are fun. And so you can turn them into reality in terms of doing them with a group of people, even those that you work with. Some of you are on teams of 60 people and 3. Your goal should be, I need to know all 60 people by the end of the year, and help 5 and do this for something, so come up with a matrix for yourself or a formula that can work for your personal network and then those who are professional too.
Our chat is really full of very, very good comments. So I invite everybody to check on them. But I picked up a question from Leslie. How do you narrow down and prioritize what you want from a person that you will be networking with? Leslie, would you like to elaborate on your question? Because I saw that you raised your hand before. And
Sure. Thank you.
hi.
Hi, Jody. Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I think sometimes I'm having trouble. I think because I'm in the arts world, I think it just kind of, COVID put a pause on everything. So I've been going back to reaching out to some folks because I am going to be taking a job shift and going back into the arts. So I'm going back into reaching out to people who have mentored me through leadership programs that I've done with Americans for the Arts or in other organizations. But I think sometimes they're not sure what to do after I ask my question, because these are people I already know, but I'm reconnecting with them.
Gotcha. I think reconnections are great, especially with what we've all been experiencing. So, right, everyone's had a pause on something. Everyone's, whether or not it's your business that has shut down or your company that you never thought would be 100% remote, that is. The idea that we all had some parent or a family person to take care of during this time, someone we lost. I think it's finding out, like we said in the beginning of the program, a little bit more about what each of those people have been going through themselves. Like, what was their last project, their last time they were on stage, since you're going back into the arts world, or the last time they played, or something that inspired you about them, the reason why you would want to work with them or at their organization because you really love dance more than you love instrumental music, like whatever it is about them that gives you the jazz of wanting to work there. And I think from your heart of what you're saying now too, that you want to go back into this world now that there was a pause, because there's also new opportunities in it now. Like, there's new opportunities in every space. How many restaurants have closed. So the idea that if someone could finally open a restaurant with two friends because you pulled your money together that you didn't spend because you couldn't travel, you couldn't this or whatever it is, there's opportunity to do something. So I think if you can also present to them why you should be doing something with this group, something that you've done before that you were working on during COVID that you never got brought to life, but their organization could be the one that houses this, that pilots it with you, especially if there's others in the arts and you guys are, comedians or writers, storytellers. People need those stories now more than ever. I mean, those are the things you can pitch to Netflix and I mean, there's so much on every channel, and I only have Netflix and Prime something from time to time, and some Hulu if I ever get to a television. But there's ways, like, everyone's looking for new content and new ways to get things out there. So I think if you can show some innovation in space that kind of has been stagnant and now bring back to life, a new way to maybe bring Broadway off Broadway, but into schools or into different spaces like they did with Shape Up NYC that I was part of. That's free fitness classes in every borough, but they're not in a gym. They're in every place else, a community center, outside, in the parks, and it's free with funding. So if there's also ways for you to bring some funding to the table for it, or know some funding sources, if it's a nonprofit area that you're going to be in, will also give you a leg up. And I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it was. Thanks, Jody.
No, you're welcome. And it's good to hear your voice. I know.
I know. Yes, sorry. I'm in Virginia and the connection here is very horrible.
It's okay. You sound great.
Yes. Good to be here with everyone. All the FOJs I'm connecting with. Thanks.
And I do want to remind everyone out there, once again, if you haven't put your LinkedIn profile into the chat, please do so, and maybe give a little snippet as to what someone could connect with you for or about, or something that you might need some help with that will help other people find you.
We started actually a spreadsheet for everybody to add their contact info in, and thank you, Deborah, for adding all those extra columns. It's super helpful for us to make a deeper connection. And I'll have our WA team send it over to everyone at the end of this meeting. It might be tomorrow morning, but everybody will get it.
You're welcome, Stephanie. I think everyone, that's here that wants, sorry, I've been sick, so you really don't want to see my face. It's kind of scary right now. So
Okay.
you get my lovely picture.
It is lovely.
Thanks. So yeah, I mean, the idea is to look for like-minded people, find the commonality. I bet I can find commonality with every single person here. So I think it's really important that we as women and men, our allies, work together. And so yeah, I put my information. I also added additional info, talk about things that you love to do, or talk about things that you want to connect to again that you haven't been able to connect to. That's something that the pandemic has allowed us to, unfortunately, on one side, it's been horrific, but on the other side, has allowed us to connect with people that we never thought we would connect to. So every person out there is a networking opportunity. So take advantage of it, guys, while you can.
And as I'm listening, so you guys understand my head, when Deborah and Stephanie were talking about, I'm like, well, these are the type of people I need around me, because I'm not putting a spreadsheet together ever. I love to use it. I like to tell you about it. I like to go back in it and say, oh, all these people want to learn about this, or these are people in the arts. But as people think about networking and looking for future work, it's also what you put forth that people remember. So I'm like, oh, Stephanie and Deborah, they're like spreadsheets. They're like detailed people. That's not me. I'm like, woo, big picture. Let's move some things around. But I understand the details and what it takes. That doesn't mean you always want to do it. And that might, like, if I was to put a spreadsheet together for you guys, you would not see it tomorrow. It would probably be in like a quarter, especially with all these people. Like, it would take me forever. So like, you also want to explain those things in a job interview. Like, yeah, I'm in charge of data and I do this, but I'm not the person who you want me to put the data together. You want me to talk about it, sell it to someone, get some people inside and do things with it. But putting it together and making the spreadsheet right, I have to pull out my glasses these days too, just to see font 3. Like, there's things you want to pay people for, and for you, it'll take 2 minutes, and for me, it'll take 2 hours. So also, when you think about your teams and how you can add value to someone, that's actually how I've hired people, because they were doing like you. I always want to hire people smarter, better, faster, and more strategic than myself. Because whatever you're doing today, you're not going to want to do it forever. Parts of it, maybe. So there's things like, I used to be this phenomenal grant writer, but I will slit my wrist these days before writing a grant ever. But that's someone's joy. It was my passion. Now it's my pain. So as you think about those things too, as I'm rebuilding my business up and kind of shifting it some, I need different people now than I needed in 2000 or that I had in 1997 when I started. Right. So, because I was doing different things. And so, and what I guess helped myself, what you train yourself in and your superpowers, those are things you take with you, transferable skills. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, and I'll use Madam Hunter, Leslie, as an example. She's been able to go in and out of different industries because she's someone who gets stuff done. She pays attention to detail. She's very production, because she has also the creative side, she also sees this big visionary picture, but she knows the details that it takes to get them done. Like, if I wanted, like, her mother probably is the happiest mother on earth because she knows every detail of what her mom wants. When she someone whines this way, it's like my friends who have kids that they're crying for water, or they're crying for, like, how do you know the different cry? Like, it all sounds the same to me. So when you can pull that kind of stuff out of your skill set, and it's something that's of value to someone. Sometimes I've just hired people because they speak a different language and I need that, or a computer language, or we're shifting over from one platform to another, and this person knows how to use the old platform. They could definitely shift me to the new one. I could care less if you could do anything else in that job description. This, like, you're going to do Slack like no other, even though we're going to switch from Slack to something else. I will hire you just for that and train you on the rest, or make sure everyone else picks up the slack in that part, right? So think about those things as you refine and as we are redefining what we want out of our lives. I mean, I think that's the best part of what came out of COVID, was it gave everyone an opportunity to really think about what's important. And the trifecta that I always talk about is passion, paycheck, and the environment. So for me, I'm passion motivated. If I was monetarily motivated, possibly we would have never met, in terms of I would have never started anything in the nonprofit. Who knows where I'd be now, but I'm always passion driven, right? So the paycheck, I want to get paid. I do like nice things, but I'm willing to give up some money to do the things that I love. And then the environment is like, what are the kind of people? What is the size of the organization? Is it yours? Do you rather work for yourself than work for someone, make a little less money, but worry, like there's things. So you now are in that space where you can make these decisions more for yourself than ever before, even within a company where you work now, that maybe you always wanted to move over to marketing, but you've been an auditor forever, right? So that's a superpower. But how do you shift over? How do you start working on some projects in the marketing department where you can still use your audit skills and slowly make your way over, or quickly, because nowadays people are leaving, right? Great resignation, great shuffle. So use these opportunities also to reach out to people that often you might not have gotten a chance or thought about reaching out to. Those quick coffee chats. But as Julian told us, make sure you know what you're asking for in those 15 minutes. So I know we're at the end of time.
Yes, we're slowly reaching the end, but why don't we talk about the raffle now, Jodi? That way.
Yes. So my favorite platform of all platforms is clearly LinkedIn. I was actually probably, to age myself, in some of the beta testing when they were starting that out. I don't even know what year that was. And so do a lot of trainings on it. It used to be one of my passions to help people redo their profile and get it all up to snuff. I still like doing that, but I don't like being the person to do it. And so I have found some other people where it's their passion and their superpower. And one is Mary David. And I am this evening, well, I would say really, Women Accelerator is giving away. One person will get a profile redone, refurbished, thought about on the basic level. So you'll get the basic. And if you guys want to put in some of make your own investment, put your own skin in the game if you win. I would suggest, I forget what level we did it at, but let's just say there's bronze, silver, and gold. I probably, what she's giving you is probably the basic, but the basic is quite good for anyone who's never done anything, or if you haven't touched your profile in a while. And also you'll end up with a plan that if you were a platinum member or whatever, they would do more of the work for you. But it's all stuff that's laid out for you in a nice plan for you to, update your photo. Like some stuff is easy, right? Update your photo, but sometimes you need someone to talk to because you don't realize how much you know till you have to put it down on paper, or when someone doesn't even understand your industry, right? So if you were a biochemist, I'm like, well, what do you really need to know for that? Like, are you missing anything here? Was there some certification that you needed in, I don't know, in science or from somewhere that you went back to school for that you didn't add here that would add some value for you to get this next job, or for people to notice you, or for you to be able to speak about health, so it's good to just have someone who thinks outside the box, but also knows what really people are looking for. Giving you also a plan as to like what you will put out there. Like you guys were asking me, oh, how do you stay in touch with your network? There's ways, you don't have to spend a lot of time on LinkedIn to get some mileage out of it, but like, are you even connected to your alumni association online? If you're a member of a group, if you're a member of a Women Accelerator, do you have that in your LinkedIn profile? If you're a member of a board, that, and then, and you might have it listed, but do you have the logo up? Does it connect to that? Like there's multiple layers. So anyway, Mary and her team, you'll probably, she's expanding her business and scaling up. Someone will work with you to get that. And so we're offering one here this evening. And then I will be circling back, and Marta will be sending out to the mentees within the Women Accelerator that I will be meeting with next week with a little homework assignment, but there will be another opportunity for that smaller group to win one of the same. But even if you do not win, I do suggest that you all take some time to look at not just your LinkedIn profile, but everything that's out there about you. Take a look at your Google, when you put your name in there, what comes up. I am the only Jodi Brockington on earth. So I always say, if you don't want to meet me, you don't want to meet me. My stepfather continues to check. And he jokes that it's good now because everything you're doing is great. But if you do something badly, that's still you, right? So, how are you showing up on Twitter? Maybe there's an account you have that you don't really use, and you can slowly taper it off and close it or shift it into something else that can be more worthwhile for where you are today. So think about those things across the board. Even if you do not win, you can also still connect with Mary and her team. It's not very expensive, and you are worth the investment. So I say that to even the students. I used to spend my parents' book money on travel and other things. I probably would have had a much better GPA. But there's ways to save for it. I think the lowest tier is probably about a little less than $200 to at least have someone look at your profile and get you started on your way, and all the way up and well beyond that for someone who's really going to mind your LinkedIn profile for you, tag you and stuff, make sure that you're doing videos and other things as you try to use the platform more. So I hope you found tonight at least semi-infotaining. If you do have questions and you do connect with me, I will definitely answer them. As Marta unfortunately told you, I will speak to just about everyone. And if you are a Baruch alum or all of that, you will see me at some events, or I'm speaking at some of those. And if there's some speaking opportunities, or you'd like me to speak at one of your organizations or something, or sit on a panel or moderate, I don't have to be the speaker, where you might want someone who looks like me or has my crazy personality, I'm also there for that. And also to make any introductions to those in my network who are great. Like Julianne, like I said, she's phenomenal, has a great book. She does a lot of presentations. I can't see everyone here tonight, but everyone who is here, you are welcome to connect with me, but please let me know you met me here. Otherwise, Maya said, I don't mind my whole LinkedIn myself. So someone does look at it. So there's probably about 500 plus people sitting there because they've invited me to something, but I don't know who they are, and they're not in my profile. So, that kind of stuff.
Thank you, Jodi. Thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful evening, and we all leave really inspired and connected because we just created a network. Thank you for the spreadsheet, and we'll be sending it out. We'll be sending out the recording as well, and all the info from chat. So this was really a terrific evening, and thank you, everyone. And we hope to stay in touch.
Yes, and join the Women Accelerator. Those of you who need this kind of group, this is a great opportunity. And I also sit on the women's media group. Those of you who are published authors or thinking about it, or in media of any kind, TV, television, are interested in that group. We do have some great programming coming up as well. I invited them to be here tonight, so I did see some names. And of course, I just want to thank all of the new folks in my FOJ soon to be network, and those who are already friends of Jodi. I really appreciate just the opportunity to speak to you and share the crazy stuff that I do. And I could definitely do a deeper dive on something specific, as I call it, strategic stalking online, for you to get to those people you really want to get to. So.
Sounds great. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great evening. Good night, Marta.
Good night.
Yes, and thank you for staying up, Marta.
Oh, it was
truly
an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to next week. Good night, everyone.